Okay, we're going to cook my pork tenderloin stuffed with mushrooms with a really nice cider and cream sauce. So hopefully you've got your 2 pans on of salted boiling water for the potatoes and the carrots, and a little pan on for the mushrooms. Right. And first off, we just need to get the mushrooms into the food processor and get these blitzed. So pop the mushrooms in and then add a twist of pepper and a good pinch of salt. And then just put the lid on and blitz it until it's pretty much gone into like a crumb. It'll all disintegrate. And go. There we go, nice and easy. Hopefully you've stopped too. See, nice and disintegrated. And we're going to take this straight over and get this cooking. So you just need a little swirl of oil in the pan. And we can turn the heat up now. And then just tip in your mushrooms. And then that's why it's handy to have the spatula, so you can just scrape down and get them all out. Okay, I'm actually going to move this onto the high heat now, onto the main burner, and just give it a little stir. And the reason why we do this is that mushrooms have such a high water content that you need to cook them beforehand if you're using them as a stuffing. Otherwise, all the water would come out of them when you're cooking the pork. So just keep moving it around in the pan. You can see the water already coming out of them. It's effectively just, you want to boil that dry. And this is a really, really tasty one. It looks fantastic. It tastes absolutely gorgeous. And I know there's probably a little bit more preparation goes into this, especially with the thyme leaves, but trust me, it'll be worth it. See how soggy they are? Also, by blending them beforehand, it makes it easier to get the water out, and it also means that when you put it in the stuffing, you can sort of mould it into a sausage shape in the middle, and it makes it much easier as opposed to sort of a big lump of stalk sticking out. So it should start to be drying out now. You'll tell when it does because you'll start to smell the mushrooms, the really, really nice cooked smell of mushrooms. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, as you can see the difference now. Before they looked like they were boiling, whereas now they'll start to caramelise if we kept them on the heat any longer. So you can take these off and then just pop them back on the plate that you had them on originally, or if you didn't, if you just put them on a cold plate, because we just need to get them to cool down slightly. There we go. And you can get rid of your pan and just make sure you've turned your hob off. Okay, first off what we're going to do is, before we start handling the pork, we're going to cut out the bits of string. Hopefully you've watched the little video that I did where I showed you how to tie up a piece of kitchen roll, and now we're going to do the real thing. So if you remember, the first one we need to do is roughly twice the length of the pork tenderloin. So if we cut it out now, it means that we can get our hands mucky when we touch the pork. The next one is going to go all the way round. So, yeah, that'll be plenty. And then lastly, you need one that's about 4 times the length of the whole thing. Do. Right. And we can set these aside. Now we just need to get the mushrooms, and before we do that, we're just going to season the inside of the pork. So a good pinch of salt and pepper. There we go. Now take your mushrooms and then just pop them onto the pork. They should have cooled down so that they're fine to touch now. Okay. On just one of the pieces, whichever one you want, because you're going to lift the other one on top. So I'll turn this round so you can see what I'm doing. Now you just want to sort of squeeze it together into a rough sausage shape. Just like that, nice and easy. Okay, now we just want to take your other bit of pork and pop it on top. And this is where we need to tie it up. So what you need to do is you need to get the first bit of string, which is this bit. No, it's this bit. The medium bit of string. And we're going to lie the pork on top of it. So just get rid of that bit of mushroom. And so just lie the pork on top of it, so you've got the ends that you can pull like this. And then pull it nice and tightly across, and then tie it at one end. There we go. And you don't have to worry about doing some sort of special little knot. Hopefully, if the butcher's done his job right, it's not going to try and escape. Okay, so hopefully you're following me still. Now we need to put a piece round the opposite end, like this. Okay, I'll turn it round to face the camera so you can see. So this has just gone underneath and round, and then just tie this up nice and tightly. Okay. Now using your big long bit of string, you need to tie this to the knot that you've just made. Right, so you've got one bit of string like this. And now what we're going to do with this is just pull it along just for about 1 centimetre, and then using your finger pinch it together with the long bit of string that runs lengthways, and then we're just going to wrap this under the pork. So it goes all the way round it, like that, and then pull it under itself. So you've wrapped it all the way under, and then it gets tucked under like that. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same process a few centimetres further on. So pinch it together, pull it under, and then loop the end under and just pull it slightly tight, and hopefully it's starting to take shape. And then we do one more. Just got enough string, and loop it under. There we go. And now that you've got your two ends, we just tie these together. Just nice and tight knot now. A little bit fiddly if you've left it tight like I have with the amount of string. But there we go. There. And so he's all nicely trussed up. Okay, so we're just going to trim the ends off. Don't take it too tight. The ends of the little bits of knot that you've got spare, don't take it too tight because you might break the knot. But just trim these off. There we go. And now you can go and wash your hands, and we'll take the pork over to the hob and we'll get that on. Okay, we can take the pork over to the hob now. So it's already looking good, isn't it? And now we just need to get your roasting tray and pop this on the heat. And whilst we do that, whilst that's heating up, we'll go and get your salt and pepper, and we'll just sprinkle that over the outside of the pork. So just a pinch of salt, and then turn it over and do the same on the other side. If you keep one hand clean, that's generally how I try and do it, and then we'll go and wash our hands again in a second. Just give that a little pat down. So you season both sides of the pork. And now you can see my pan's getting nice and smoky. That's exactly what we want. So with your clean hand, just pour in a good swirl of oil just over the pan, and then straight in with the pork. And this will make a lot of noise, but we're just going to brown it. All we're doing here is just getting some colour on it, on all the sides. So we're just going to leave it for a few seconds on that side and then turn it slightly. So you can leave it, and you can leave your board there because we're going to use that again in a second, but go and wash your hands if you've been touching the meat again. Right, So we've got clean hands now. We can go and turn your pork around. There we go, getting some nice colour on it now. And just move it around the pan just to get some of the oil and the heat from the pan, because when you turn it over it'll cool down the pan. And then try and hold it on its sides. We'll just seal the sides and then we'll be done. And what this does is it just starts caramelising the outside, but it means that there's lots of, it keeps all the juiciness of the pork inside when it gets cooked in the oven. Okay, you can turn the heat off now and pop the pork back on the board. And we'll take this back over to your work surface. And I know that we've popped the pork back on the board that it had the raw pork on, but don't worry about that now because it's all going to go in the oven and then get cooked. You wouldn't put it back on a board that had raw pork on if you weren't going to cook it again. So I'm not trying to kill you. So now we just need to brush the pork with your mustard. So using your pastry brush, just slap it on. It shouldn't be too hot to handle. Use your tongs if you find it's a little bit hot. There we go. And I know this is English mustard and it's hot, but it really doesn't come out like that when it's been roasted. So don't worry, I'm not going to blow your head off with that. Right, now we just need to bring in our plate with the thyme leaves on, and all we're going to do is just roll the pork into the thyme so that it picks it all up. So just roll it over the thyme. You should have it like that. Nice and simple. Now we can take this over to the hob and pop it back in the roasting tin. So he'll just sit in there, and get rid of your plate and go and wash your hands and bring over your potatoes and your carrots. Okay, well the pork's ready to go in the oven, so we'll just pop that in the oven now. And we'll get the potatoes and the carrots on. There we go. Now the pork will take 45 minutes to cook, but what I want you to do is drain your potatoes and your carrots after 15 minutes and then just pop them back in the pan and put the lid on, and then come back when the pork's done and we'll be ready just to do the final stages and then eat.